Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are going to be talking about another palette from W7. This is the Queen Bee palette, and of course, it is a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette. I believe the Urban Decay one came out last year. I think it was last summer, and this one just came out, I think earlier this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, so it is literally a brand new release. As soon as this one was announced, I was planning on picking it up with my own money to review it for you guys because it's quite unique to my collection in terms of the color scheme, and then W7 surprised me by sending it to me in PR, so thank you so much W7. It was such a lovely surprise, and I was so excited to try it. I'm so itchy right now, it's really annoying. Who else gets that? As soon as you put your foundation on, your face just gets like super itchy just everywhere. Just me? Anyway, I'm going to be doing this review the way I do all of my reviews, so I'm going to be starting off by taking you guys through all of the details of the product. Then I'll be showing you some swatches before going into the tutorial for this eye look. And then finally, I will give you my final thoughts on the palette and just my general first impressions and how I feel about it. So let's jump in. So this, of course, is the W7 Queen Bee palette. Look at that packaging. It is so cute. I like how they have the dripping honey. I think they are doing really well with their packaging at the moment, so definitely points for that. We obviously on the front have the name, and it is an eyeshadow palette this time. It is not a pressed pigment palette. As this is a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked range, this one comes in a tin. I don't think the recent Urban Decay palettes come in a tin. I think it was just maybe 2 and 3, but W7 have carried on putting them in a tin format. So as you can see, it is pretty thick, and it's also very light. It does feel a little bit cheap, but it also doesn't take away from the fact that it is quite pretty, so I will forgive it. Then on the back we have the usual information. So we do have a diagram as always, which is color coded, and we have the names written above all the shades rather than being numbered. We have 2 ingredient lists, so one for the matte eyeshadows and one for the metallic eyeshadows, and this palette is half and half, so we have 6 mattes and 6 shimmers. We do have the shelf life after opening over here, which is 18 months, as well as the total weight of the palette, which is 10.2 grams. The palette retails for £6.95, which is insanely cheap. I definitely expected it to retail closer to the £9–10 mark. And something that I do need to mention, which I should have mentioned in my Total Eclipse palette review but had to cut out because that video was just so long by the end, that is the price when you get it on their website. However, they are also stocked in places like B&M, Home Bargains, TK Maxx as well. The palettes can sometimes be even cheaper than on their website, so it's definitely something to look out for. In terms of the cost per gram of the palette, this is the most expensive one of the W7 palettes that I own, but that is only by 2p per gram, so it really isn't a huge difference. It comes in at 68p per gram, so under £1, still extremely affordable. I did also include the original Naked Honey on my list as well for comparison, even if I don't own it, and that one does contain a little bit more product. We have 11.4 grams as opposed to 10.2, but the palette does retail for £43, so cost per gram wise that is £3.77, so this one is of course insanely affordable. When you open the palette up, this is what it looks like on the inside. So it doesn't have a mirror, which explains why it is so lightweight. But one thing that I do want to point out that doesn't really bother me, but you know, just in terms of the packaging, the actual space that the eyeshadows take up, there's quite a big dip. The casing of the palette is pretty thick, and then actually the eyeshadows don't take up that much space, so I just thought I would mention that. Another thing to mention with this palette is that the names are not printed on the inside of the packaging, they are only on the back, which honestly for most users isn't going to make that much of a difference. It's a bit annoying for me as a YouTuber to, you know, have to keep looking at the back of the palette to read the names, and you guys will see it during the tutorial. For most people that's not going to be a problem, but I just again thought I would mention it. And then it does also come as always with a brush. You guys know I'm not that bothered about brushes that come with palettes. I don't tend to use them. This one has a flat brush on one side and then a foam applicator on the other, which actually can be quite handy with certain, you know, really chunky shimmer or glitter shades. I won't end up using it personally. So that is it for the details of the palette. Pretty straightforward, very, very affordable as always with W7. So let's jump into those swatches. Alright, so as mentioned, unfortunately the shade names aren't written in the box, and I'm gonna have eyeshadow all over this hand, and I'm also fairly lazy. So I'm just gonna have to go without doing the names, but I'm just gonna go from left to right in the palette, lightest to darkest. So the first shade that we have is a metallic slash shimmer. That's actually not a bad swatch. I'm gonna say it right now. I used this on my eyes. I wasn't super impressed with it, but it does swatch nicely. So maybe this is a shade I need to try again. Then we have a light matte brown. We do have a little bit of chunkiness there, but nothing very offensive, but I do find that that's something that happens with a lot of their eyeshadows anyway. Then we have like a light matte yellow. So far these are swatching well. Considering these are not pressed pigments and these are eyeshadows, I think those swatches aren't bad. Next up we have a metallic bronze. That is a really, really nice swatch. Then we have a darker brown matte yellow. Did that make sense? Browny yellowy matte, I think I wanted to say. Then we have a dirty gold metallic, I guess. I mean, these swatch really well. Then we have more of a greeny gold, and then more of a khaki metallic, and then a kind of medium matte brown. Probably one of the worst swatches so far, and somehow it's still pretty decent. And finally, the last three shades, we have a kind of darker matte brown, very, very powdery, that one. Then a more metallic bronze, and then the darkest brown in the palette. Very impressed by those swatches. As I said, considering they are eyeshadows and not pressed pigments, I think they swatch absolutely beautifully. Just not much to say really. That just went so fast, no issues. I feel like normally there's at least a few duds. Yeah, they're pretty decent. Everything just kind of looks satisfyingly nice. Alright, so I guess in that case it's already time to jump into the tutorial. I feel very efficient today and it's worrying me. I feel like I've forgotten something. But let's go back in time and you guys can see how I got this look today. Alright guys, my eyes are primed with my P. Louise base in the shade 0.5, so it's now time to jump into the palette. I am thinking half cut crease, very original, I know. I'm definitely going to be using browns in the crease because all of the matte shades are brown, but then I definitely want to go more into these kind of greeny shimmers over here because I think they're going to be what's most interesting in the palette. And I also have some new brushes to try out today. So I got the Morphe and James Charles eye brush set for my birthday, so I'm actually not just going to use some Zoeva 231s for once. So I think for my first shade I'm going to go for this brown over here. I'm taking it on a Morphe M456. Seems to be picking up pretty well. A little bit of kickback in the pan, and that one is called Sting, and I'm just going to start packing that into my crease. Seems to be applying pretty well so far. Not sure about my choice of brush because it all seems to be going on my lid rather than in my crease. I was kind of hoping it would be a bit better for just getting that into the crease, but maybe I was wrong. I'm just kind of following the shape of my brow around at the end. I've dipped in a few times, but pigmentation wise, that is not bad at all. And I'm just gonna go in the bottom outer corner as well and just trace upwards and connect it up a little bit just to give me the basic shape that I'm gonna be working with. Okay, so not bad at all for my first shade. I feel like this feels a bit closer to the Vivid palettes or the Whatever palette than it does to the Total Eclipse. Nothing bad to say at all really. So let's jump into another colour. I'm going to try the one next to it, which is called Nectar. So that's this one over here. I'm going to take this one this time on a Zoeva 231 just to blend out. It might be too similar, but we'll try it anyway. Seems to be picking up fairly well again. Seem to blend out okay, I would say. Really not noticing any sort of issues. I would say they're quite enjoyable so far. Yeah, that's blending out pretty easily. I don't really have any complaints. The only thing I'm thinking, just kind of interesting shades of brown. You know, a little bit baby diarrhea is what I'm gonna say. But in terms of blending, I have nothing to say there. I think I'm gonna go straight into a lighter shade next. I'm gonna take this one on a Morphe M441, and that is the third shade, wasn't it? So that is Nest. And again, let's just blend out. I mean, yeah, when it comes to blending, I really don't have any complaints about this palette. I think this is working pretty well so far. Just kind of trying to extend it out a bit out here. That's an interesting shade, actually. Okay. I think that blend is really, really nice, and it just really hasn't taken that much work, so I'm quite pleased so far. I'm gonna go back into the darker brown on my Morphe M456, so that was Sting. I think I'm just gonna add a little bit more, just to deepen it up a bit. And then back into the next one, which was Nectar, so that was this one here, on the Zoeva 231 again, just to blend out. The most annoying thing about this palette so far is just the fact that the names are written on the back, and so that means I have to turn the palette over every time I want to tell you guys what the name of one of the shades is. But in terms of using it, really, really nice. I've just gone back into my Morphe M441. I think I'm just going to take a little bit of Nest again, to get that yellow to pop a bit more. I mean, they're really interesting tones. They're not anything I would normally use. It is a lot more autumnal though, but I just went to open the door to a delivery driver and it is pouring down with rain. So, you know, autumnal colours don't feel completely out of place at the moment, I will say. I really like that. I do really, really wish there was some sort of matte green in this. I really, really like these tones here, and I really, really wish there was a matte one, like a really dark matte green. I feel like that would be really, really nice to deepen the crease right now. What I might do, let's see, what brush am I gonna use? I'm gonna try my Morphe M506 in this shade over here. So this is one of the shimmers, and this one is called Royal, and I'm gonna try popping it right in the outer corner. I know that with the most recent Urban Decay palette, there has been complaints from some people that it just doesn't have enough mattes, particularly in the purples. I think the ratio in this palette is good, you know, half and half, but a nice matte olive would have been really nice. I think though this is gonna work just about. Just really, really deepening the outer corner. I guess I'm gonna pack it on here a little bit as well. And then with no extra product, I'm gonna go back into the Morphe M456. Just kind of blending it outwards, and kind of down into that line I drew on. That line's gotten quite messy, but you guys know I like to clean up with concealer anyway, so I'm not too fussed at this stage. And then back in with the M441, no extra product, I am just blending. I'm just gonna prime my lower lash line really, really quickly with some P. Louise base. I'm gonna take my Morphe M124 and I'm gonna go straight into this one, which was Nectar, and I'm gonna pack that into the lower lash line. And then I'm gonna go into this shade over here, which I haven't tried yet. Oh, this one picks up really, really well. This is Manuka. I've gone in with the clean Zoeva 231, and I'm gonna blend that out. And every time I'm just coming in to connect up to the outer corner. This one is super pigmented. The quality of these mattes is really, really nice. considering the price of the palette especially. And then I'm going to take the M441 again, so that big brush I was using to blend out, back into Nest. Do prefer it when the shades are written on the palette. It does just make my life so much easier. And I'm just going to connect all of that up. I really like the way that looks. And then I think finally I'm going to go into my Morphe M330 and take this shade over here, which is called Comb, and I'm just going to finish blending those edges out. Wow, it picks up really well. They are pretty kick-uppy in the pan, but I haven't noticed too much fallout on my cheeks. That's good to know. They seem to be sticking to the base really well. Wow, I love the way that looks in the monitor. I take back what I said about the baby diarrhea from the beginning. Super pleased with the pigmentation on this one. No issues blending. Nothing to say, really. Pleasantly surprised. So I'm just gonna go and cut my crease into a half cut crease, and then I'll come back so that we can fill it in together. All right, so I have now cut my crease, and I used a little bit of this shade, which was Royal, just to pat it in and kind of blend it out. I think the shade that I really want to jump into is the greeny one. It looks really pretty, and that one is called Raw. I'm gonna use the brush that I normally use for shimmers, which is this kind of large flat one from a really old set. Seems to pick up pretty well. I think I'm gonna go over most of that. Okay, that's a pretty color, but it feels like a bit of a struggle. So let's try a different brush quickly. I'm gonna use a really small flat one. It does pick up well though. I think I expected this to come out a bit more green. Okay, I think it works a bit better with the really small brush, but what I really want to do is spray it and see what happens. I'm just going to use my Collection Matte Primed and Ready. Give it a couple of squeezes. Does it make a difference? I think it does apply a bit more easily actually when you give it a spray. Yeah, it definitely does. It's going on so easily now. So I've gone over most of that in a diagonal. And then I'm going to take my Morphe M152 and we're going to try the shade next to the green, which is called Buzzin'. Cute. I'm going to try spraying it as well in a second, I think. Not really much difference on the eye. Let's give it a spray. Okay, so spraying them doesn't make like a really big difference to how metallic they are or anything. It doesn't make them more intense. It just makes picking them up a lot easier. You can't see a massive difference between these two shades on the eye. They look pretty similar. It's only really created a bit of a light gradient, I would say. And then just with my Morphe M506, I'm gonna go back into a little bit of Royal and blend them in a little bit more. I do like the colours. I think it does make for a really pretty cut crease, but there isn't that much difference between them. Maybe if that first one we put on was maybe a little bit more greeny, although I don't know if it would be a bee related palette if it was. I like the overall effect though. I like the overall finish. One thing I'm going to say about these shimmers as well that I really like is the texture. Unlike some of the other shimmers that I've tried from W7 in the past, they're not chunky, they're not really thick. They're a really nice and easy to use formula. I think wetting them is just going to make things go a little bit quicker. We're going to see how it goes. I'm going to update you once I finish putting the rest of my makeup on, but I don't think that this is going to be one that's going to look really textured and crack on the eyes, which is the issue that I mentioned with the Total Eclipse. They're nothing exceptional. They're not like the best shimmers I've ever used in my life. They look nice. I quite like that. I think actually I want to use a shimmer on the lower lash line, which isn't something that I ever do. I'm going to try this brush. This is the Morphe M508. I just kind of want to try as many colours as possible from this palette. So I'm going to try this one over here, and this is Bumble. I'm just going to go ahead and spray the brush because I know we've had better results with the other shades that way. And let's see if I can kind of pack that on. Okay, yeah, there we go. It's kind of working. just to make it a little bit more interesting, really. There was another thing that I wanted to try. Let's get another small brush. I'm gonna take the lightest shade over here, and this is one of the shimmers, and it's called Milk. Again, I'm taking a flat eyeshadow brush, and let's see if it can be used for highlighting. It's not really doing much. I mean, it's a pretty light shade, to be fair, and obviously I'm someone who's quite pale, so maybe if you are a little bit darker than me, it might highlight a little bit more. It is the same formula as all the other shimmers. They are all the same formula, but this one doesn't feel like metallic in the same way. It feels almost more like a satiny one. I'm just gonna take that Morphe M441 again, just blend over the edge because I'm worried I've covered it a little bit. I feel like it's made more of a difference on my left eye, interestingly enough. I don't know how that's happened. For my waterline, I'm going to take the Revlon So Fierce Vinyl Eyeliner, and the shade is, I can't see it, Mighty Mocha. I'm going to do the top as well, actually, I think, which I always forget to do. And I'm going to come and smudge that along the lash line. I'm not being too precise with it. Okay, that might have been a mistake, not to be a bit more precise than that. Okay, there we go. It's nice and creamy, so it should be really easy to blend out. Kind of wish I hadn't used that smudging brush now, though, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe a Sigma E36, let's try that. I'm just gonna smudge that. I need something more precise. I'll use a flat eyeshadow brush instead. I'm really not being too precise here, just smudging it in. And then I am just gonna kind of bring it into the lower lash line as well, which I think I'm gonna add a tiny bit more. There we go, just connecting up to the top lid and then blending. And then just gonna use the Morphe M506 as well. I've not taken any more product, but I'm kind of just gonna tap in place, just help finish blending. Really like this. I'm gonna quickly just jump back into a little bit of Nest, back on that big Morphe M441. Just make sure that that is really nicely, softly blended out here. Alright, so that is it for the eyes. So I'm gonna go and do mascara, lashes, and the rest of my face off camera. I really like the way that this looks right now. I'm really excited to see how it looks once I've got my foundation on. Yeah, right now, really pleasantly surprised. So let me go and finish off the rest of my face, and then we'll do my final thoughts on the palette. Alright guys, here is the finished look. I have pulled out the brown lipstick and I feel so autumnal right now. It doesn't feel like a look I would normally wear in July, but then the weather outside is disgusting anyway, so what even is summer anymore at this point, now that we're finally allowed outside again? This palette has been such a pleasant surprise. I really like how this look has come out. I loved working with the eyeshadows. I thought they were so easy to blend in together. It wasn't really any hard work at all. Everything just kind of went really well. The most work that I had to do was with the shimmers. I did spray the brush, but that was just to kind of speed things up a little bit. I don't feel like it increased how metallic they were or anything, but they are really pretty. I think this is a really nice cut crease. My original plan was actually to add like a liner detail on the cut crease, or maybe like some green eyeliner or something. It doesn't need it. Like, I'm just happy with how this looks. I definitely felt a little apprehensive going into this palette, and that was for a couple of different reasons. One of them being the fact that even though I have had good experiences with W7 palettes in the past, the Total Eclipse one disappointed me a little bit, so it did worry me that I would also be disappointed with this one. And the other reason was the fact that while I've never actually owned a W7 dupe for an Urban Decay palette before, I had swatched some in the past and they hadn't been great. So I think those two things combined together, I was like, is it gonna be good, is it not? And you know what? it was actually pretty good. I'm so pleasantly surprised. I could see myself using this one every day. This could definitely be a bit of a work palette, using mostly the browns and the more browny metallics. And then when you want to jazz this up a bit, you do have those more golden ones. I think if anything is a little bit of a disappointment for me, it probably is this shade. I just didn't feel like it really did anything. And I would say a more olivey matte shade would have been nice in the palette. I did mention earlier as well that I was curious about how these shimmers would kind of last on the lid and if they would look more textured. And looking at them now, they're not particularly textured or anything. They definitely look better than the shimmers did in the Total Eclipse palette the other day. I was happy with the blending. I'm happy with how the metallics look now. I would happily recommend this one, and I really, really hope that they have a dupe coming for the Naked Ultraviolet, because I can't afford that, and oh, it does look pretty. So I really, really hope that that is going to be coming from them at some point, and I'm already excited. So that is it for today's video. I hope, as always, that you liked it. If you did, do please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of it. Definitely let me know if you want to see more looks using this palette, because I think we're going to get some really, really lovely everyday wearable looks with this one. I am actually excited to play with it again. And if you haven't already, of course, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next video, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye guys!